This is CBC Vancouver News.
It's pretty tough, especially when you see the damage right out here on the stage for everybody to see.
Gutted, an iconic Vancouver stage left in ruins from an overnight fire, and
I can appreciate that this incident is quite alarming for our community here in Port Moody.
5 people arrested after a shocking daytime kidnapping. Plus,
it's joyful to be here to see the community get together.
Celebrating Vaisakhi, hundreds of thousands turn up for one of the world's largest Sikh celebrations. Good evening, I'm Lien Yeung. Thanks for joining us. An historic arts venue in Vancouver has been gutted by flames. Kitsilano's iconic Showboat Amphitheatre has hosted performances every summer since 1935. But as Janella Hamilton reports, this season has come to an unexpected halt, with some questioning whether or not the show will get to go on.
It's a lot worse than I thought.
Oh my gosh, it's all burned out on the inside.
Ash and debris litter the ground, a steel stage door warped from the heat, audio equipment and the dressing room destroyed.
You can see from the cracks in the wall, it was a very hot fire.
A devastating sight for lifelong volunteer Barry Lineback.
I first stepped foot on the stage as an entertainer at 10 years old, and I've been here ever since.
Lineback's mother was involved with the Kitsilano Showboat Society since shortly after its inception in 1935, passing that passion down to her son, who has been helping provide a platform for thousands of musicians and amateur performers.
It's almost like losing a member of the family.
Fire crews say they were called to the fire just after midnight Saturday. Looking through the damage, Lineback says he's thinking of his mother and everyone who's kept this historic amphitheater running.
It's pretty tough, especially when you see the damage right out here on the stage for everybody to see.
This burned canister that once collected donations at shows, one of the few things left.
This is just heart-wrenching.
This hobby artist says it's a tragic start to the season for Vancouver's already struggling arts community.
There's a lot of performers that would never get a chance to perform on stages. There's youth groups, there's young children groups, there's the different variety of ethnic groups that come out here and perform.
Lineback says he's already booked 60 acts for the season, with more than 100 artists still waiting to hear if they would be able to perform.
There's so many questions to be answered right now.
This Vancouver Park Commissioner says the society will have to rely on donations from the public to fund repairs for the showboat.
Unfortunately, the park board does not have a lot of emergency funding to repair this kind of facilities.
We need your support for Showboat Fire Fund.
The society is set to meet Monday with the park board to determine if the summer schedule can go ahead. Lineback is staying optimistic that the show will go on in one form or another.
You rise from the ashes, as they say.
Janella Hamilton, CBC News, Vancouver.
Surrey streets were filled with music and color today as hundreds of thousands of Sikhs and other community members came together to celebrate Vaisakhi. Today's festivities were particularly joyful. This was the first time the crowd of 500,000 people were able to gather together since the pandemic. Yasmin Gandham takes us in.
Hundreds of thousands of people gathered here in Surrey for the return of the Vaisakhi parade. It's said to be the largest parade in Canada and the second largest after Punjab in India. And we can see there's so many people here enjoying what the parade has to offer. So let's check it out and see what's in store. This is one of dozens of music stands here at the parade. Music, a really big part of the Sikh culture. We have so many people here of all ages enjoying the traditional music here. So it is one of many things here to offer at the Vaisakhi parade. One of the biggest parts of the Vaisakhi parade that draws thousands of people here is the food It is huge to the Indian culture and to Sikhism in general. Right now here, they're frying up some veggie burger patties. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're making here?
This is a nanak veggie patty, so very crispy and inside cheese and veggies.
Wow.
So,
okay,
yeah.
Okay, we're gonna try this veggie burger. It looks really good. Okay. So good.
The parade marks the creation of the Khalsa order in 1699, a defining moment in Sikh history.
What's the kind of biggest takeaway of Vaisakhi today, do you think?
I think it's just that sense of community. It's the amount of people that get together just to, give away and to do seva.
This year feels a little different because after 3 years being away, and we come back, brings all the memories back. And not only the memories of the last seva we did, but this year we're doing sugarcane juice. People, when they taste the sugarcane juice and they take a sip, it takes them back to India. It's the flavor, it's the taste of it, and the atmosphere around it. So everybody's happy and a lot of good feedback here.
The family's been a part of this for so long, and it's happy to be back after a long 4 years, and well awaited for everybody. It's been awesome, yeah.
Food, or langar in Sikhism, is integral to the religion, where everyone is fed without discrimination.
It actually feels like that we're all respecting God right here. And yeah, we're doing a lot of sangat right now here.
We come here and to see our people get together on such a great day, and it's joyful to be here to see the community get together.
While the day is a religious celebration for many here, it's ultimately about coming together as a community. Yasmin Gantam, CBC News, Surrey.
Port Moody police say they've arrested 5 people after they allegedly kidnapped a man on a busy road earlier this week. Police say they received multiple 911 calls on Wednesday after the man was pulled into a minivan in the Brewery District on Murray Street. A witness posted what he saw online.
There was a gold minivan with the passenger door open and 3 girls screaming at the top of their lungs, "He kidnapped, he kidnapped, he kidnapped." The car came out, turned right, and I was going straight through. So as soon as I seen him, I took my car and I swung across the yellow line and blocked him in so he couldn't come into the oncoming traffic.
The driver got away. Port Moody police called in help from RCMP and Vancouver police. On Friday, they say they rescued a man in his 40s and arrested several other people in Mission.
As of right now, there are 5 suspects in custody, and we do not believe that there are any suspects outstanding at this time. And I can appreciate that this incident is quite alarming for our community here in Port Moody. But I can tell you that we believe this incident to be targeted and isolated in its nature.
Police would not give any other information about the arrest. They say there was never a threat to the public. And transit police say they've arrested a man for a stabbing incident outside Surrey Central SkyTrain station last weekend. Around 1 in the morning last Saturday, a man in his 20s was taken to hospital with a stab wound to his abdomen. He was released shortly afterwards. This morning, officers identified and arrested a suspect. The agency says it will share more information about that arrest on Monday. And in Kamloops, the man who was found dead inside a dumpster has now been identified. Police say Gregory Troy Hamilton was found Thursday night in a dumpster on Curlew Drive. They say Hamilton was homeless and he lived between Kamloops and 100 Mile House. Police have not yet determined if his death is suspicious, but they are asking anyone with information to contact police. Heavy debate is stirring in the Kootenays over a proposed housing development. Dozens of residents rallied outside Fernie City Hall today in opposition to the project. The proposal includes developing 185 hectares of forest and green space near Fernie. The developer withdrew the original application a year ago, but has now submitted a revised version.
They have a proposed concept that 1 acre of each parcel will be for your house and the rest will be protected areas. I understand that. However, the whole region around it is very sensitive. There are spawning grounds of West Slope cutthroat trout, which are potentially becoming species of concern.
They will be able to voice their concerns at a public hearing on May 4th. It's day 4 of the public service strike. The head of the union representing federal workers took aim at the Treasury Board and the Prime Minister today. Chris Aylward said the Treasury Board has yet to respond to a comprehensive proposal that the union submitted on Thursday. And he says Justin Trudeau has done nothing to move talks forward.
Treasury Board and the Prime Minister needs to do something about that, and they need to be serious about these negotiations. I've never seen, I've been involved in this union a long time, I've never seen a round of bargaining like this, the disrespect at the table from Treasury Board and from this government.
Aylward accused Treasury Board President Mona Fortier of incompetence. The strike involves more than 150,000 federal public workers. Key issues include wages, job security, and remote work. Well, BC is home to one of the rarest animals on Earth, the spirit bear. And for several decades, Kitsau-Suhaihai First Nation has been trying to protect it at all costs over fear of attracting poachers. And they have recently made some significant gains. But with the salmon stocks declining, there is concern that time is running out for the bears.
We are in this place, it's in the Fjordland Conservancy. This place is known as Kainok. This is one of our old village sites. We came here with BC Parks and one of the ministers, George Heyman. We basically signed off on a new agreement where our watchmen will now have provincial BC Parks authority. And so if someone's doing something illegal here, our watchmen can now basically issue them a ticket. In the past, you would see very little enforcement agencies up here. We saw so many illegal activities. But my community said, get a watchman program, get your own people out there. So we started building the watchman program in around 2004. And the challenge is that our guys would ride around and do a lot of the data collection, and they would enforce laws on behalf of our community, on behalf of the nation. But we weren't recognized by the provincial government or the federal government. Prior to that, you know, if our watchmen caught something, you know, they caught someone doing something illegal, we would have to report it, and then we'd have to wait for someone to come up and do an investigation, or, you know, so it took time.
I've been going out and about since I was like a young kid. All these older generations that, you know, handed down their knowledge to me. My favorite thing is to pulling up to a boat when they're anchored, introduce the program to them and, you know, what we do. Just to get to know all these people all over the world, you know, that do stop here and do use our territory for anchors for the night. That's the best part of the job.
You can see the bear track right there. We also worked with him to announce a closure of the black bear hunt. Black bears in this part of the world are extremely special because this is the only part in the world that you get spirit bears. And spirit bear is basically a white black bear. And white bears have always been protected, but black bears have not. After the Great Bear Rainforest Agreement, we set aside a lot of the territory in protected areas. Places like this is a protected area, it's a conservancy. And we had the issue where people were coming in and shooting all the bears. So I'm out here, we're trying to run a tourism business. We're trying to take clients from all around the world, show them the beauty of the territory, and sometimes we'd come across a dead bear. And someone would come here and basically shoot a bear, chop off his head, take the fur, and they would leave the whole carcass there. It just felt like a violation of our culture, because that's not a part of our culture. And it just spoke to a larger issue on how do we have a say in wildlife management, and so that's why we pushed super hard to try and end that industry and make sure it didn't exist here.
Bears that we do have, the numbers are going up. There was this black mom with a white cub in one of our estuaries, and my next time there, that cub was all alone, and it had to like learn how to survive on its own. I was watching all these other bears over the past years as it was growing up. It was like the king of the river after. And whenever you seen that white bear come out, it's really, you know, special.
We're super glad to see that there's no more grizzly bear hunting, there's no more black bear hunting, and that, you know, is more in line with our culture.
A A number of countries are getting their citizens and diplomats out of Sudan as the violence in that northeastern African nation enters its second week. More on that story after the break. Countries are evacuating their citizens and diplomats out of Sudan as the violence in that northeastern African nation enters its second week. As the CBC's Ithel Musa reports, one nation in particular is helping Canada and other countries get their people to safety.
Evacuees from Sudan arrive in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia by sea. The kingdom says it transported 91 of its citizens, as well as about 66 nationals from other countries, including India, Pakistan, and Canada. The Sudanese army and the Rapid Support Forces, a rival paramilitary group, are engaged in a violent power struggle. It's left more than 400 people dead, and attempts at a ceasefire have repeatedly failed.
They seem determined to fight this one to the death. Each side seems to be under the illusion that it can land a killer blow on the other, and I am deeply pessimistic that Sudan is actually set for a new cycle of war, even more destructive than the ones that it has had in the past decades.
The two warring factions have agreed to help evacuate foreign nationals from the UK, US, France, and China. But the US Embassy in Sudan issued an alert Saturday, strongly advising citizens to remain indoors, shelter in place until further notice, and avoid travel to the US Embassy in Khartoum.
Wow.
The embassy also says it's unable to assist with convoys leaving Sudan's capital, and citizens who choose to do so do it at their own risk.
We've heard a lot of shootings and bullets and bazookas and bombings.
Canadian medical student Saida Mustafa is desperate to get out of Khartoum.
Just because the international airport of Khartoum is closed doesn't mean that there's no way out. I see all these countries, planning their way, planting troops all around the country in different countries, trying to get their citizens out.
Canada says evacuating citizens is impossible right now due to security risks. The Department of Global Affairs says a team has been deployed to neighboring Djibouti to help assess the needs on the ground and to provide logistical support. As foreign nationals continue to look for a way out of Sudan, many citizens struggle to remain safe and survive without running water, electricity, and food. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
More than a dozen countries in Southeast Asia are in the grips of an extreme and sprawling heat wave, breaking temperature records since last week. Thailand is experiencing especially extreme conditions. People in large parts of the country were warned today to stay indoors. A record 45-degree temperature has been set, and humidex values are climbing into the 50s. Scientists say global warming is making heat waves in the region longer and more intense. Meanwhile, climate activists organize rallies and protests around the globe to mark Earth Day. The 54th annual celebration of the environment comes as climate scientists warn that average global temperatures could hit all-time highs this year or next. CBC's Chris Reyes has the details.
Across the globe on Earth Day, condemnation.
These are unlivable temperatures, especially for the poorest and most vulnerable people.
But also celebration. From leaders, both a declaration of how we're failing.
We have already lost this melting of glaciers game and sea level rise game.
And how we're making progress. Today, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau took to Instagram to inject hope in the fight against climate change.
Our emissions are actually lower today than they were in 2005 and 2019.
From the United Nations Secretary General, a message to speak up, to engage in all ways, in all parts of the world.
This Earth Day, I urge people everywhere to raise your voices in your schools, workplaces and faith communities and on social media platforms and demand leaders make peace with nature.
In cities across the globe, that's what many did. In Washington, D.C., climate activists walked to the White House, demanding more from President Biden.
U.S. claims of climate leadership are nothing but propaganda and greenwashing.
In New York City, events across all 5 of its boroughs, including community cleanups and car-free streets.
The same love and nurturing that we show the mom that gave birth to us, let's show it to the one that sustains us.
With every Earth Day, higher stakes. A UN report released on Friday showed the world's failing grades on key metrics, like rising sea levels, ever faster glacier melts, and intensifying ocean heat.
Unfortunately, this negative trend in weather patterns and all of these parameters may continue until 2060s, independent of our success in climate mitigation.
From one of the world's renowned environmental activists, this reminder.
It's not just this day we celebrate Earth Day, it's every single day of the year.
A call to action beyond just today. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
And you're looking at a live shot of Harbour Centre downtown, lit up in green for Earth Day. And even the Lorax showed up for it. He was spotted in the Okanagan speaking to kids about the environment. We'll tell you what that was all about after the break. To mark Earth Day, a retired teacher in the Okanagan dressed up for the occasion as Dr. Seuss's The Lorax, speaking to kids about the environment and giving out tree saplings.
Planting a tree is a feel-good thing, and in 25, 30 years of doing this with kids, I've never had a kid not feel good about planting a tree.
Fulton estimates he's helped plant more than 30,000 conifers in the Okanagan. He says his annual tradition gives him hope, and planting trees is a metaphor for a more positive future. And speaking of things that spin on an axis, it's also International Record Day. We visited Kitsilano's Zulu Records, where some fans of vinyl say they've had the day marked on their calendar for weeks.
In our society, we're losing a lot of connection. Folks are aware of it. We want more connection. We seek it. So the good old record store is one of the places where that still really exists in a really tangible way with people.
I'm in it for the sound quality, and also like the big art. You know, collecting records is fun too.
I hope people will keep doing it so that places like this can stay open and you can always find more records of the music you like, because it's like you could download on Spotify, but then you could have this beautiful square.
That is a very nice cover. All right, that's it for us this Saturday night. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good one.